So this week, we're literally where we left it a couple of weeks ago, and and with the phalanx virus onto us, I'm a little sick, so that's the joke. And we're gonna talk about like the end of X Deaths of Wolverine and X Lives of Wolverine, and how that could set up the stage for what's to come in Destiny of X a little bit. We have Kevin again with us, same time as a couple of weeks ago as the last video that we did in Mutant Watch. Kevin is reviewing like X Deaths and X Lives, except for like I think one issue that Ross did. And as always, Gabriel and me. And let's go.
This week on Mutant Watch.
Okay, so since 2 weeks ago I did the sum up of the whole thing, I'm letting that to Gabriel
Oh,
for this
okay.
time.
Let's see how I do. Feel free to jump in if I stop making stuff up. So we ended up, when we last spoke about it, it was kind of left on a weird little cliffhanger. We had a Phalanx Wolverine, and we had Omega Red Wolverine, and we just had lots of Wolverine without any of them actually being Wolverine. And we finally reached the point where the two series kind of met up without really meeting up much. We got the resolution of the Wolverine from the future, got the resolution of Moira and her weird plant cancer. And we got a resolution to Omega Red stalking the line of Charles Xavier, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we got the
Better than-
reason, the reason why that happened and how kind of it worked. More or less.
Did we? Did we really?
We kind of know Mikhail does like weird stuff with space and time, so that's and the shore.
Yeah, I think the exact answer we got about how they did that was Jean and Xavier just pretty much going, yeah, we never really know what his power is. It's weird. Which, I mean, I guess it answers that question of how without answering the question of how.
I have issue 4. Like, I'm trying to go back over. Because I liked X Lives 4. I think that was my favorite issue of X Lives, and that's the one I didn't review, which was funny. That's the one Ross did. And I think it was the one that basically talked about how time is kind of elastic. Like, even though Wolverine went back and changed stuff, time still figured its stuff out, which it's such an easy answer, but I like it. Because it's just like, even though we did stuff, that time figured itself out.
As you said that, I am now remembering what is hands down my least favorite data page of the entire Krakoan era, and that is their explanation on how they're handling all the like potential time problems of time travel is just having Jean, erase everyone's memory from when they were there, because that clearly isn't going to have any problems on the time stream if everyone just forgets a whole day. I'm sure that's fine.
It's such a
Smooth.
so it works though. That's like, it's like a band-aid, except you're putting the band-aid on fast rather than taking it off. It's just like, take our word for it. This is why nothing changes.
Like, kind of, but I also feel like it's just putting on a band-aid without knowing what the wound is. So it's like paper cut, band-aid. Could it have been a bullet wound? I don't know, band-aid. Could it have been an amputation? I don't know, band-aid. And it just, I hope someone picks up on this and does something with it, because it seems an odd fix that they put in there that doesn't feel like it's fixing anything. Like, there's a whole town of people that aren't dead. Like, isn't that a thing that happened? Did Wolverine save a town?
In
A village?
Colombia?
Yes.
Yeah, unless... Well, because Sabretooth stops him. Well, Sabretooth stops Omega Red, who took over Wolverine, from killing Charles. So maybe Sabretooth went back and did it.
But like, if they forgot the whole day, maybe they just think they killed that village and no one like.
Yeah.
It's so not an answer that it drove me crazy. Like, I had to text Duna and I'm like, I hate Charles Xavier for this one data page.
Not only
Yeah.
for that.
I mean, in that moment, I hated him for that data page. I've always hated Xavier.
Yeah. When I read issue 5 of X Deaths, I thought of both of you with Beast at the end.
Oh God.
Oh.
Because it just wasn't subtle either. It was just like, I'm a monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
But kind of bring things back a little bit with the conclusion of everything in Lives, because I feel like we're gonna need to have a whole conversation about Beast monologue that was weird. But back to we'll do, I think, in Lives of X Lives. What did you guys think of just the general like resolution of the whole time hopping shenanigans?
It was a fine comic and a fine resolution. It wasn't like, it didn't blow my mind.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm glad it didn't. Well, it's always great to have your mind blown. But I'm glad that nothing got too mucked up. But with Jean and Charles kind of stepping in. But it was more like X Lives was about Wolverine figuring out that Krakoa is his home all along. And it was like, okay, this is the 5 issues of character development, even though there was no development. I feel like every Wolverine issue I read, even if it was, I don't know, 10 years ago, it wasn't Krakoa, but it was like, oh, my home is with Charles and the X-Men. And so that's kind of what I got from it.
You know what? I'm glad that you said that, because I guess like it's rehashing that same character growth makes sense, because I kind of just read it and I'm like, okay, I don't think anything happened. Like, he went back in time, he went to these places, but it didn't feel like anything was really resolved. You know, he still he didn't come to terms with what happened at the Colombian village. He didn't come to terms with anything about Duncan's mom. The only thing that I felt really came out of X Lives, or 10 Lives, whatever you want to call it, is that Omega Red got chopped in half. And I'm still Team Omega Red. They did him really dirty. So, I don't know. It felt like nothing happened in Lives.
Yeah.
I have the panel open with Omega Red getting ripped in half. Yeah, and like it was a good Wolverine little arc. But then X Deaths, it's all about Wolverine in the last issue. And so maybe that's why X Lives felt anticlimactic, even though it's literally someone getting ripped in half, and then it shows the Omega Wolverine fighting like the Wolverine family.
And with Omega Red getting ripped in half, it didn't feel like a resolution, especially not in Krakoa. Because this whole thing started because they resurrected him and mucked around with him. Like, there's no resolution for what they did to Omega Red. There's no real resolution for what Omega Red did, because Technically, he didn't break any Krakoan laws. Like, no humans died. He didn't harm the island.
No humans died.
I don't think so. Well, did any
He
humans
kills.
die?
Well, does it? Does retroactively killing, like if he goes back in time, does that count?
No one remembers it, so I guess it never happened.
That's
Jean Grey did her mind nuke, so did they really die?
And that's not harmful. Jean
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Jean fixed the time stream, so anyone he killed, I guess, apparently doesn't matter. So let's bring that bad boy back. Round 2.
Gabriel just wants another like 5 issues of
I
X
don't.
Lives
Please, God no.
where,
Oh God no.
where Omega Red actually wins. Like,
Yes. Okay.
in every scenario, he like kills Xavier. They have to go back to like save again, and it's just like a bunch of times of Omega Red killing Xavier, or someone from Xavier's family.
Just kill Xavier a whole bunch. That's what needs to happen.
I'm like scrolling through, and it's like X Lives really could have. They could have expanded that into its own series. Like the first page of X 10 Lives 5, it just shows all the different eras of Wolverine, and it's like, okay, this is origins. And that's when Wolverine was most interesting, I think.
And I know that the only way that they could have solved this was just have more issues, which obviously I'm not advocating for. But the fact that it was X Lives of Wolverine and it's supposed to represent 10 Lives of Wolverine, and then there was 2 that I'm pretty sure we only got in a data page. And that just seems,
see.
Yeah, that it just popped up with it's like, this is what happened on these 2 lives we didn't bother showing you on panel, and it was a choice.
I need to go back and look at the logbooks and stuff again, because was it in X Deaths basically the deaths are referring to the other mutants?
Yes.
And that wasn't the logbook, right? That was like a translation from Krakoa, something like that.
Oh,
but that felt not cheap, but it was like, oh, okay. But then I'm questioning lives. Like, is it actually his lives?
So I do know that in the start of every lives issue, it kind of has instead of a character, like the character sheet, it has the various lives of Wolverine and who's involved in each timeline. But we don't see each of those timeline, at least not really. And then in like that last issue, we get like a little like mission report about 2 lives. I think one was in the Old West, and I forget where the other one was. And one thing that struck me as a little bit odd is, I believe, and maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, each time we saw Omega Red attacking an ancestor of Xavier on panel, it was someone in the line of Xavier, like Lieutenant Xavier or whatever. But the 2 that we got in the data page were ancestors of Xavier's mom.
Oh.
Yeah, and that just seemed a weird way to divide it.
Oh.
Yeah,
I don't like
completely
that.
missed that.
Yeah, because I noticed the different last name, and I was like, oh, that was a weird distinction to make.
I need to start reading the data pages someday.
But I did like that they kind of acknowledged that there were other things going on, but they don't acknowledge how Wolverine stopped those other ones going along if he wasn't conveniently 100 miles away or less.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, Wolverine's always within. I think we talked about this. Like, Wolverine, no matter where, even if it's the frozen ocean, Wolverine can get there.
I think I think that even speaks like thematically to the book, because like the end of like X Lives is very much like Wolverine being like, "This is where I belong. This is my place. This is my family." So that's why he's always like,
There's no Xavier child is allowed to be born longer than a like 2-week journey away from wherever Logan is. That is the rules of the Marvel universe.
exactly. It's just about belonging.
And one thing that and it was in the data page, and I know that I'm looking way too much in like a paragraph that irked me was Wolverine had to do like 2 weeks of hard writing to make it to save the ancestor on time, but they're doing time travel. Couldn't they have just sent him like a month back and like give him time to get there? Like, did it need to be such a close time frame?
Yeah, and then is it like, well, because it's so urgent, we just have to get you, as we can't think about it.
True,
I
that
mean,
would make sense.
Yeah, it also makes sense that like if you give more time, like the changes to the timeline could be greater than if you gave less time. Like just the time that you need.
But Jean Grey's gonna nuclear mental bomb everyone
Yeah.
anyway, so just a bigger boom, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, going to X Deaths. The last two issues, I don't remember the fourth one, what happened in the fourth one, but I remember the fifth one like pretty decently.
So the fourth one was when Moira made her move against Krakoa, which included the oh so fun skinning of Banshee to sneak in.
Oh.
Yeah. And then Mystique doing everything in her power to just shoot everyone with the depowering gun. And the very uncomfortable line of where she kidnapped a queer woman and said that she was going to make her plaything or her toy. Yeah. When she kidnapped Destiny, she said, "I don't know if I should kill you or keep you as my toy or my plaything or something like that." And I'm like, I feel very uncomfortable with that. And then we got the Omega Wolverine versus Moira, and then the Omega Wolverine versus everyone.
Yeah, that's season 5, right? The Omega Wolverine versus everyone.
Yep.
Okay, that's a lot.
What I will say is one thing I did appreciate is the use of Banshee. In a lot, and like Banshee has such deep emotional ties to so many major players, but he is so frequently left out. He was apparently, at least in his mind, Moira's love of, they were like the love of each other's lives for so long in the comics. He had the deep bond with Emma Frost. He was not a founding X-Men member, but pretty close. And despite all of that in the Krakoan era, he's just kind of been forgotten. Like, no one really says anything about him. So while I did appreciate that they acknowledged those ties, could have done without the murder and skinning. But I did like that they acknowledged it. And I think the gruesomeness is part of what makes Moira Moira now.
Yeah. I'm staring at the panel of her taking off.
Well,
not the mask, his face.
The face.
Yeah.
I really hope they resurrect him fast and leave out that memory. Just you're good. You're good not knowing what your ex-girlfriend did.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to go back because like I missed a lot of what you just said.
And that the bit between Moira and Sean was also again in a data page where Moira lured Banshee out and tried to convince him to help her. And then they flat out say on panel that Moira was sure that she could have gotten his help, but she didn't have time to wait, so she just murked him and moved on.
I remember that, yeah. And I always feel like I don't spend enough time on the data pages, but they were intimidating. Like, not just for Wolverine, but when did this start? 2018?
2019? 2019, I think.
Yeah. And I love the design. Is it Tom Muller does all that stuff, which I love the consistency of it. And yeah, I feel like it's intimidating for people that maybe don't read mutant books, but they're so important. Like, I need to go back and only read those.
And I did notice that it all depends on the writer. Some writers, they use it as just kind of like a fun little things that wouldn't have a space in the book. Like, I think one book had like Glob do a recipe on a page, and it's just like clearly no plot relevance, but it's fun. Other people use it as like infographics and like charts and stuff to drive home a point. It really does change writer to writer, and there are some I think that really utilize it well, and some I feel like lean on it a little too heavily instead of putting it on panel. But it's all just a writer's taste, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think Percy used them well?
I wasn't a fan of, like I said, the jumping over some of the Lives of Wolverine. It felt kind of like, oh crap, I forgot these. Let me put it here. But on the other hand, I did like the deaths listed in the last issue.
Yeah.
I just wish we would have had more. Like, I wish they would have done that from the start. Like, each issue, we're getting more details of how people died, and how the Great Krakoa got brought down, because nothing was really done to stop it. So these are all things that can still happen. And I think it would have been really interesting if, we found out how each council member died or how each X-Men member died. And I think it could have gone more.
Do you think it's well, because I guess, are there 10 deaths or is it X deaths now? Because on that page, there's only
3?
4?
Yeah. There's only 4, and then they tell us what happened to the Wolverines. But I think it's X deaths because it's deaths of the X-Men, but it's 10 lives.
Okay.
Which also pretty similar to how it all started, because it was Houses of X, but powers of 10.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of sticks with that theme. I'll say theme.
Okay.
What did you guys think about the resolution of all of the Moira stuff?
Is there resolution?
I think like the writer didn't want to and we were talking this before we went live. Like you, Gabriel, were saying this. So I'm just stealing your words. But like the writer, Benjamin Percy, didn't want to get too deep into the implications of what is behind all of Moira's thoughts and feelings. So he made it up in a way that you still have some room to work with something more. You can get more of why he's doing what he's doing, or you can get more of what is happening next, or a relationship between the two. So there's still room for that. Aside from that, I gotta be honest, I don't remember the whole thing with the phalanx. I don't remember exactly what was Moira's process for wanting to just put the phalanx in Krakoa and just shit everything.
I don't think that it was Moira's intent to release the phalanx. I think it was more like, stabby man killing me, I have gun, bang bang. And oops, it lets out the phalanx.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which it kind of seemed like that's what she was going for, though. Not
Yeah.
that it was gonna take the healing factor away, and that's what was keeping that at bay.
Yeah, I also got the sensation that she was like, fuck it, let's just do the phalanx now. Let's not wait like whatever thousand of years that we have to wait till there. Let's just like speed fast through this. I got that impression. I didn't understand why, but I got that impression. Like my theory of 2 weeks ago, still can hold up. Like the theory of wanting everyone to be phalanx just because that way they can like actually live forever. It is pretty fucked up, but
Yeah, there is a lot of still open about the why Moira is doing anything, other than maybe just pure survival. Because she's not dead. Spoiler. She's something, but she's not dead, and otherwise, a lot of it is just not sure why she's doing what she's doing.
And so I was like, oh, that reveal at the end. I'm looking at it, and her hair's long. I know that doesn't matter. I don't know if that's the body that we just saw her die, because it's like a fully mech body, I guess. But it was weird because Krakoa absorbed Omega Wolverine's skeleton, but then they just take Moira's body and get a proper burial for her. I would have thought that Krakoa would have absorbed her too.
I mean, she's all like plant cancered and no longer mutant. And there's so many layers of things going on with that body. I don't know if it would be safe to feed to Krakoa. But also, my thought wasn't she building a new body up with the Steve Jobs of Marvel?
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe that was the body, but why was it buried?
It seems like she planned that. I think it says like she needed a place to hide. Yeah.
So maybe she like made arrangements to pre-bury her robo body, and maybe Krakoa ate her blonde body.
Yeah. Oh, because it did kind of make a coffin for her. I'm wondering, because I'm not fully caught up, but I'm wondering if they'll sit on her again, or if she's gonna play immediately a role in Destiny of X.
I hope they sit on her a little bit.
Okay, I mean, nobody is actually kind of like we got like we know of like Immortal X-Men because of the review copies, but nobody else knows. So like
yeah, I didn't even look at the preview.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, that's smooth. Let's talk about Destiny of X.
There was one other thing with Deaths of X that I wanted to bring up, and it kind of brings up what you were saying, is that did we really need 10 weeks of Wolverine? There is a moment in the final issue of Death of X where I got so excited because Sage, who has been just sitting behind a desk since Krakoa started, gets this badass moment where she's like, oh, the phalanx is a virus and I am a living computer. Let me take care of this. And Sage has shown time and time again that she can be a badass when it comes to fighting. And you had Omega Wolverine up against Daken, who has almost killed Logan multiple times. Gabby, who is a good fighter, and Wolverine Laura, who is also good. And then throw in Sage, and no one can do anything but Logan. and it just really drove home that this isn't a book about the X-Men, it's a book about Wolverine. They could have very easily had Sage deliver the blow with the weapon she made, but it needed to come from Logan for reasons of it's a Wolverine book more than anything. And it was so close to being something I was excited for, and then just Logan came in to steal it again.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Does they do like a cool slide and she throws it to him?
She was right there. She could have just stabbed him.
Yeah, I'm looking at she's under Omega Wolverine with the sword.
And like,
yeah, like that's a missed opportunity, yeah.
And I'm sure when me and Duna finally cave and we have our new Excalibur show, I can rant more about Sage, but she showed in New Excalibur and in Extreme X-Men that she can definitely hold her own against a lot of things, but they just didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because then she kind of talks about how she's the computer, living computer, and it's a virus. But then does Beast kind of say, well, Wolverine's our antivirus?
Yeah. Well, he says that in his monologue when Sage is kind of like, I also saved the day, you know, and then Beast goes into his evil monologue about how Wolverine is the only one that matters because he uses force and nothing else matters but the use of force. And all he was missing was an evil laugh to end it with. Like, Beast is a fucking supervillain.
And like, I agree because he's a monster. This felt like full heel, like looking at the camera and winking and doing the evil laugh. It really like it's I don't know if anyone says he's not, like readers, but it's very interesting. Like he's definitely going full heel. He's a monster.
Yeah, I think also it's, and I'm not sure because I haven't read like every X-Force issue by Benjamin Percy, but I got the impression that Benjamin Percy also likes to write like morally gray or like just morally like just wrong characters in a way that they like express themselves as the protagonists of the book. So that fit very well with the Beast monologue. It was definitely like a thing of like, it was definitely on purpose, I think. Like a thing of like, I'm doing this is sticky and you're not gonna like it, and this is one of the main characters of my book. And I feel like with X-Force it was like that a lot because it had Quentin and it had a lot of stuff that was like very much like that, but not that grandiose.
Honestly, with the way Beast is going, I'm kind of half expecting them to resurrect Dark Beast to stop him. Like it is almost at that level where he just keeps digging and everyone just watches, and every now and then he'll get a stern finger at him, but no one stops him.
Yeah, and so I wonder if this really was the Percy's, I don't know if it was his idea to make it this obvious or if that's going to play a role moving forward, because it really does end with that for the most part. Of it gives you no time to kind of question like, oh, did Beast just say that? Like if there's any issue, it's we'll have Wolverine go kill whoever. And it shows like Krakoa is so, not the island itself, but just the mutants are so unstable. And I can't believe things do keep crashing down. But it seems like they're playing Jenga and it's only one piece on the bottom.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect tangent to talk about Destiny of X, though.
Okay.
Because it's, like you said, they are just keep building, and now we have all of these titles coming up, and it seems like a lot of them are going to make it very easy to have things come tumbling down.
I'm looking at, so I don't really, the only one that, because Sabretooth #3, I've read 2. I think I've read X-Men #9, which I was very confused at because I'm not fully caught up. It seemed like there's a lot going on, probably setting up for Destiny of X.
Okay, so in Destiny of X, we had Immortal X-Men coming in next week. X-Men Red, which is the Araco book with a Storm and Sunspot and Magneto. That is gonna be awesome. And we have like continuing with like Sabretooth and New Mutants. Although Sabretooth is like set in the past, I think. So
Well, we kind of got that teaser at the end of Death of X. I'm kind of feeling like, yes, Sabretooth is set in the past, but I wonder if it's gonna end caught up.
Yeah, I feel that too, because like he's opening his eyes in that teaser, like in that little thing we got. He's like in a stasis on the pit, but he's like opening his eyes. So it's like, I'm going there.
I do hope that if we are getting more out of this, that it's more of the Victor LaSalle Sabretooth and not just Sabretooth, Wolverine villain again, and the pages of Wolverine. I hope that it stays nuanced.
Same. We also got Knights of X, and which is the title about like British people being horrible. I can't wait. And and then we got Legion of X, which seems like, I don't know, everyone is calling it the cop book, so that's the one I'm not sure I'm gonna read. And we got, that's all. I'm losing something.
We got Marauders continuing as well.
Oh, Marauders is like restarting. Like we got Issue 1 coming up soon by Steve Orlando.
And we are continuing with both X-Force and Wolverine, which is where I think if we're going to see anything really direct come from it, it's going to be those, because one, they're written by Benjamin Percy, I think, still, and two, they're the Wolverine books.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Steve Orlando Marauders, because like it seems like it's gonna be like super queer. It is gonna be like, I won't let Marvel disappoint me like that. It is gonna be.
So is there anything from the pages of Lives and Deaths of X that you want to carry through to Destiny of X? Or do you think it was just filler to give these new writers time to set their stuff in order?
I mean, my highlight was seeing the Wolverine family. Like seeing that felt significant, especially they're all at the bar together. I'm looking at that panel. Hopefully there's more of that. I don't know what the Wolverine issue 20 is going to do. But other than that, I feel like I'm trying to think what I enjoyed about X Lives. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But looking at like the end of X Deaths, other than the Wolverine and X Lives coming to finish the job in an X Deaths, there really wasn't. I don't know. I'm glad it wasn't 10 months or whatever of this. So now I'm looking at, okay, 10 weeks. I could have done 5 months of X Deaths. And I think 5 weeks of it would have felt too quick. So I understand like X Lives helped Wolverine figure out that he does have a home again.
I'm really curious about who does the next thing with Moira next. because I feel like they are passing her around between different writers. So I'm curious about that. Especially because she got a full book that never happened, and that is probably never gonna happen. Maybe yes, but it's probably not gonna happen. So I'm curious, because there's probably a lot of ideas behind the scenes that haven't been really put anywhere. Yeah.
I do think that they may be using Moira to kind of solve what is I think a decent sized, I don't want to say issue, but challenge of the Krakoan era. And that is, if every bad guy is now a good guy, who's the bad guy supposed to be now? And
Beast.
Beast. Yes, the answer should be Beast. But anytime they kind of take a bad guy, a former bad guy, and they make him the bad guy again, they either need to be really creative with it, like the way Vita Ayala did with the Shadow King, or, in my opinion, it kind of falls a little flat, like what they did with Omega Red, where they're trying to make us be sympathetic to the bad guy, but also have them still be the bad guy, and I think that is very hard to land. So they need a bad guy, and I think that might be what they're setting up Moira and the Machines to be, even though I have plenty of issues with what they did with Karima for Omega Sentinel.
And isn't there an event with the Eternals and Avengers? When is that this summer?
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. I think it's July. I think it's coming right after the gala.
Oh, okay. So I wonder, I mean, everything about that feels forced.
I have not been reading the Eternals. I love the movie, but I've never got into it in the comics, and I've also fallen off of the Avengers, so I'm not quite sure how it all fits together. And these versus events have not been my favorite, so I am very worried about that as well.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the Eternals, the current run. But I hope it doesn't. I mean, I'm sure it'll feel forced, but I hope Destiny of X has enough time to set things up, and I hope it doesn't feel like it's cut short by a big versus event.
Yeah, that's the thing with events.
I can definitely see. I'm confused because I've read some things about the Eternals are saying that the mutants are deviant, and that's why they get involved, which that bit seems a little bit forced to me. But I do definitely see the concept of the mutants kind of setting themselves up as to be they are the speaker of the entire solar system now. They are a global power in terms of politics and medicine and economics, and they don't die, which is a secret that's gonna get out sooner or later. And that is a lot of power for one people to hold, and kind of looking in the more thematic way. That's a lot of power for a former marginalized group to hold without people feeling threatened by it. So I do feel like a versus event can come about really naturally. It all depends on if they're able to pull it off without just trying to paint the mutants as being the bad guys again.
Yeah, I heard, I'm sure it's, I don't know if both of you have heard it, but maybe a couple other YouTube accounts that they're going to bring in mutants into the movies by calling them deviants, which sounds horrible.
Yeah.
But the force,
that's a choice.
in having the movies, hoping it brings people into the comics, is rare for that to have a big impact. So I really hope they keep. I feel like after all the Inhuman stuff, Marvel finally has the X-Men in a good place again. So hopefully that doesn't interfere with it.
Okay. I think we got it for today. Mostly because I'm tired.
The phalanx, your phalanx is spiking up again.
Yeah, totally. At least it's not COVID. Yeah. Okay, so thank you both for coming again to chat this. It doesn't look like it, but I'm really excited about the next month because we're gonna have a couple of like cool shows that we'll talk about soon. And okay, so this was it.